You're not available.
So I'm Cassidy Carbine, if you guys don't know my name yet. And I am here today to present the results of my artistic research the last couple of months. Okay. So my research was an interdisciplinary study on the body and movement. I used dancers and non-dancers as a way to discover my own artistic practice, as well as discover what movement means for me. Before I go into the details of my research, however, I want to introduce you to a website, which I have been creating as part of a way to document what I learned during this research and the process itself. So this is all available for you guys to look at later. Carbine.hotglue.me, in case you guys are interested. And it's this, like I said, it was a research sort of to discover what movement is and also to help my own artistic practice. It was between dancers and non-dance artists, so I worked with both of those, and it was all sort of in a way to rediscover my own reason to move. It comes from a general interest I have as a dance artist in collaboration, like collaborating with interdisciplinary work. I like to use also improv for warm-up, composition and performance techniques, and also the interest I have just in the body-mind connection. So it all somehow relates to that. Let's go back to the site. As you see in the opening page, I have a few points over here which sort of are the vision statement, you could say, of my research. I am working to understand the implications and potential of dance, movement, and performance. Unlearning and redefining my personal dance practice, what moves me to move. Specifically, how do artists outside of dance approach movement and the body? And how can I utilize this knowledge to work inside collaborations with these artists? You can also see over to the side are buttons, which you can navigate throughout the page. So you can see, for instance, questions brings you down to where I lay out a lot of questions that I was asking myself before and during the process. Oopsies. Then the next one would be movers, which I made a few little mini profiles of the participants in the research, the dancers and the non-dancers. All their artworks, not all of them, sorry. Just a few little examples of who they are and what kind of people I was working with, so you get sort of an idea of the different characters. And I called them movers because they, in the end we were all moving together. Process documents step by step sort of what I did in the process, and a few other buttons which you are free to discover on your own. So just to sum up my research again, or what I did in the process, I sought out artists who I knew already had an interest in using their body in their own work. And started a dialogue with them. So I began with interviews, asking them what their own interests were in the body, what sort of artistic practice did they have, and how did they view movement. Then we went into a practical session where I tried to see what sort of movement they created within their own body. And it was really just about the dialogue between all those artists and trying to find somehow a common ground. And this is all to feed my own practice, as it will continue into further research and processes, creative processes after this. So now we arrive at questions. These are the questions, like I said, I was asking myself before and after. And it was, I'll just go over a few of them that were important to me. So, when do we choose the human body as a medium? I wanted to understand what the implications of using the body are for different people. What are the different disciplines artistic practice and how do they differ from dancers' practice. Specifically, we can think of autonomous artists, which, for instance, are visual or graphic designers who work really individually by themselves, and their creativity comes from their own internal interests. And compared to group and collaborative work, which you could think of dancers and musicians as working in collaborations and sort of needing the group and group instruction. So my interest then in guiding improvisation in sort of this platform of working with dancers and non-dancers, I wanted to understand how my guiding, or how the guiding techniques influences how the movers move in the end. So understanding the subtleties of that. And this also leads into the different labels and roles that artists give themselves, and how in improvisation do these roles start to blend and merge and change and shift. Yes. So we arrive at some of the movers. I just want to introduce you to a couple of them briefly. Let's start with Anna, who is a graphic designer, and here is a video that she did using herself in motion. More of her if you want to go and find more of her work. Edwards is a visual artist in his 4th year right now this is a film he made. It's 10 minutes long, and in the whole process, the camera stays still in this image of the space. In the whole process of the 10 minutes, very little happens. I'll just show a bit. He likes to use minimalism in his work. And just sort of subtle changes. It keeps you like on edge, kind of waiting for something to happen the whole time. So I like that his way of using movement is by using stillness. If you get a general picture, it won't go very further, but it's really interesting to sit there for 10 minutes and watch it progress. Coming from a different perspective, we have Maria, who is she's a pianist and she's also studying design right now. So she sort of used the two together in this project, and I'm not a musician, so I don't understand this exactly, but she basically made these blocks that you put on top of the keyboard that enable it to be easier to improvise because they play chords, like, as you play them. Just show you a bit, and maybe the musicians out there will understand how it works. But it's something very practical and physical that sort of designs the space and designs I also find it really interesting that it turns the whole piano black. Just visually, it's something that just occurred to me right now. And a few other, we have some people who helped me and inspired me, and also Alicia and Joao, who were my two prominent dancers who I worked with the whole time, also in Shoko before. So, we arrive at my process. So like I said, I began with the interviews, and after I sort of had an idea of theoretically what they thought about movement and using their own body, I thought it would be interesting to then take it to a practical state and try to start to have some movement sessions with the artists. So, what to say about this? The first time I went into the studio, it was interesting. What I did was I had this idea I wanted to see how their bodies dealt with tasks. So I started with this idea of asking them to produce something, basically. So asking them to, I'm going to show the video and talk about that. Maybe that'll become clear. This is just a few clips.
Keep that image in mind of what it is that you're touching. The shape, the color, the weight. If you need to, you can go back and just sort of collect your box around you again, visualize it.
So I was asking them to be inside of this box and explore this box and really have to visualize it and use their imagination. And what it really ended up doing was actually physically putting them in the box. So in the space, they became sort of isolated, each person in their space with their own box. And there was a lot that I learned about this session. I mean, you can also see in the space itself, it's not, how do I say this? The video doesn't say a lot, like it's not, anyway, the space was uninspired, basically. And we had a conversation afterwards about it. For instance, the instructions that I gave, asking them to do something for me, gave them no reason to do it, other than my instruction. Also, the space gave no input into or inspiration. And I wanted to listen just to a conversation that we had afterwards about it, and I think there's some really interesting points that the different movers make here.
On the first moment, I have the feeling that I have a space. I have the freedom, to do something. But I was doing not really for myself, not also for you. It's pure. It's for nobody.
I thought it also at the end with the cube thing.
You were doing it for me, or
instruction in that sense, so it in a way you don't do it for yourself because you feel it's somewhat too difficult, and then you also don't do it for you. I mean, I knew I didn't have to do it for you, so in a way you're just doing something.
Like improvisation.
Does that
So I mean, you can tell that there was this real sense of why am I doing this? Why do I care about this box or things like that? So they also
you have no direction? Does that bother you that you're not doing it for somebody, or?
Maybe the word for somebody, but where, or maybe maybe bothers that makes it more difficult. You don't have to. I don't know. Makes it difficult.
I have automatically when you say okay, we do this, then I can't follow your instruction because I have this of course I hear what you say, but I can't. It connects me not with your what you say. For me as an artist, because I have a very autonomous, individual choices. It's like I can't make a connection that you say go work, and of course I will try to do this, but it will be like walking, It will be not. For me, it will be. Without feeling or something.
If I ask you to walk, will it be without feeling?
Is it because you didn't choose the space yourself?
Maybe because that's not my choice.
This location.
It's not familiar. It's not something.
You
would just do it or you don't do it on purpose here. So was your, I guess that was the main difficulty. Maybe it would be interesting to once do it in a place where somebody chooses
Their own place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as I got to the point at the end, they were talking about the space. There's nothing to give into the space. Nothing wasn't something that she chose, and in a way that it started feeling forced. So I took I reevaluated it, noticing that space was really important, how I guided, what input I gave, and how I asked for movement was really important, and then also a feeling of group dynamic, or the feeling of being together with a group, as also has a lot to do with space, I think. But so I went into the next session, and this time the first thing I did was step outside of the studio, which we were lucky enough that it was a sunny day, so we actually got to go outside. And what was interesting about being outside in this really open space was that it actually made us closer together as a group, because we had to find each other in not even the chaos, but in the large open space of being outside. Also, we started to get inspired by the things that were happening. So if you would hear a sound of a dog walking by, or the wind that would blow you, it really started to tickle your senses in other ways. And it gave her more reason and purpose to be in a different space and to explore it. So what I did in this session was to we began, like I said, exploring our senses with our eyes closed. We sort of went on a tour of the space to get to know it. And then the second half was a meditation that I did with them, which was really interesting because it moved the dancers into movement, and the non-dancers stayed in stillness. However, there was something really interesting about everybody, is that they were still very present within the whole performance. So they were physically present there in the moment, and you could see it in their body even if they weren't moving. So I felt like it was a really good step. I also felt like I could go further with it, and that I wanted to find a way to get everyone having the impulse to move, having everyone, So I went into session 3 where I spent a lot of time coming together as a group. So really found each other in the space. Again, we were outside, but at a different location outside. And it was more social, so there were a lot of other groups around who were there for social meetings, doing their meeting up. So that also some stimulus there, so once we came together as a group for a while, then I started again an improvisation score, which I adapted from Meg Stewart. And this was about reawakening, rediscovering your body, how it moves, slowly discovering the space around you and the people, and having this need to communicate with the space and people around you. So by having this need and this looking at everything new, it started to have impulses for people to move into the space and to explore the space. And suddenly it came from inside of themselves instead of an instruction from me as to what to do. So for me, this was really what I was trying to get to, and was absolutely beautiful, I think. I'll have a video of that, which I'll show you at the end. Just to go over a few of the discoveries that I learned next to this. To answer the question of why we use the body, my answer would be it is vulnerable, human, approachable, desirable, and ephemeral. It somehow is a physical bridge between one mind and another, and it's important to have this physicality. There's also, of course, the biggest thing that I found out was that we have to change space. I can't stay in the studio anymore. I think it's really important that we find a space that is relevant to to the work that you're doing in collaboration. So a space that really relates and inspires the task at hand. When I'm guiding, it was really nice to find a way to spark their own creativity and their need to initiate and explore themselves. And what really happened in the end was that the roles of artist, dancer, not dancer, all of these just started to sort of melt away, and everyone became inspired by each other. And the roles switched and reversed and were very valuable in the moment, in the improvisation too. So, what I want to do with all this research is that I find this to be a great way to start a creative process. So I think the last session that I had would be a perfect way to gather people that I'm working with in a collaboration and start that way and already starting to make movement material or a sensation or group feeling. So there's a lot of potential, and it definitely learned a lot about my own artistic practice in this. Let's begin. So this is the last session that I had outside with And to me, this is just really beautiful to watch and see how everyone works together. And like I said, it's just the start. So I have this beautiful website I've set up, which is just sort of the not work in progress, but it's just the beginning. So I'd like to continue this and add more as I continue to go. I'm also open to work with anybody who has an interest in moving, whoever you are. And so feel free to contact me at my website or my email.